Ladies and gentlemen, children of the interwebs out there, Sebastian Envy, Strong Style, Cinephile, and Antman, Wasp, Quantumania. Now, I did a review of this, and I was going back and I was like editing it, and I was just realizing, number one, it was taking too long. Number two, I just didn't like where I was going with it. So I decided to re-record it. I know I'm like late behind millions of other reaction review videos, of course, behind the pre-screening videos that credentialed reviewers get to do. One day, maybe I'll get to be a part of that crowd. Who knows? But let's talk about the movie. Now, essentially, the Pym family and the Lang family, Scott and Cassie, get stuck in the quantum zone. That's the gist of the story and their efforts to get out. Janet is a little bit wary of going back in there because, as I theorized in previous videos onto the plot of this, that maybe Janet, because she was stuck down there for 30 years, that maybe she had to do some shady stuff to survive, and maybe some of the people she did some of the shady stuff to was going to come back to bite her in the butt. It's kind of something to that where she met Kang. She encountered Kang not too long after she got stuck there, and she helped him rebuild his ship, and they were going to get out of there together. And then she finds out, oh, he's an evil mofo, and then she strands him there. Him being there doesn't exactly stop him. He continues his evil conquering ways within the quantum realm. So she kind of set the quantum realm on this dangerous, enslaved path with Kang under the boot heels of Kang, and then she got rescued and then, dipped out. So people view her as helping this dude get into power and then dipping out and leaving them to have to deal with the consequences of those actions. Understandable. Now, her not telling the family about this for a good bit of the movie, kind of wonder if that was exactly the right course of action to take. Secrets, just the longer they're held, the worse things get when they finally come out. That's something we can all take in life, a life lesson, But movie things got to happen, so those are the type of decisions that people make. Scott Lang is living life. He's wrote a book. He's happy. He's not doing any superheroing. He's kind of living off of the fact he was a superhero with his autobiography that he's reading to kids at book signings and stuff, and he's just not really doing anything. Whereas Cassie is sort of a fight the power type of individual. She has been apparently arrested multiple times. Nothing for anything major, it's just getting arrested at protests and things like that because she cares and she wants to do stuff. She wants to help out the little guy and just do something. Whereas she thinks her father, who she has some issues with because of time missed because of the blip and the snapping, she feels a certain type of way about that. They have some relationship issues kind of fixed with each other because of that. But she looks down on Scott in certain ways because she feels he's just not trying to do anything. That's not trying to help people. Like when they get in the quantum realm, she wants to help the people liberate themselves from under the boot heels of Kang. And Scott is like, hey, this isn't our fight. Let's just try to get home. So that causes some friction a little bit between them as we motor towards the confrontation with Kang, where the thing that Janet kind of messed up, Kang tells Scott he needs basically to fix the situation. He needs to go retrieve this, the MacGuffin of the movie, or he's going to kill Cassie and make him relive it over and over and over again. Evil type of stuff. That's the gist of the movie. Of course, everybody's stories kind of converge, and then we get the big CG shenanigans towards the end, and then that's the end of the movie. I liked how when Scott and Kang threw down, Scott wasn't just a miracle martial artist. Even though he's fought side by side with Captain America during Civil War, he fought in Endgame alongside the other heroes and stuff. He is still just a dude who is just an average dude, can't really fight. So Kang was just whooping his ass just from pillar to post. I love that. He basically beat him by luck and by the help of hope. Now, I've seen some criticism online about the fact that Kang the Conqueror, that's supposed to be the big bad going forth. I thought he was going to come out of this the big bad. We saw in the trailer where he's like, I don't have to win, I just have to make sure we both lose, as in maybe they'll both get stuck in the quantum realm, and doesn't happen. And I could see a couple things out of this movie. Number one, as far as the MCU fatigue and just the whole quippy, jokey nature of some of the films. This movie, Thor: Love and Thunder, that just went way overboard as far as like the quips and the humor and stuff. And I always bring up the situation where the scene where Jane is in front of the mirror, she's having a flashback to her mother dying of cancer. She's feeling the effects of the powers that are killing her, and then she powers back up, breaks the mirror. It's a very serious, solemn moment. And the next thing you know, her and Valkyrie, like 10 seconds later, are just like head nodding to head bopping to Beyonce. It just kneecapped the seriousness of that moment in the bathroom and of reflection for Jane thinking about her mother dying of cancer and now she's suffering. You know, it just totally kneecapped that moment. So it's just like stuff like that I don't like. And as I was watching this movie, I was kind of keeping track. Okay, there's a joke here, there's a joke there. That was fine. Nothing too bad. And then it gets to a certain point in the movie where with a certain character, and it's just like, there's the line of like too far, and they just are just like, they're coming up on it, they're coming up on it, they're coming up on it, and I'm just like, all right, you're here, stop moving, and then they're just like, over the line. And that kind of bugged me in that situation with that character, and it just, I was like, okay, you're doing it again. I can see why people can give it criticism. Maybe I'm just a mark for the movies at this point because I'm just here for it all. I want to see how they go and expand things. I know some people have tapped out at Endgame because they were like, well, that's the end of the story for me. They don't know anything about the characters. They don't care about the characters. I've seen on a podcast where they criticize Black Panther, calling it like side character, the movie, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I mean, which do you want? Because if we got to this point after Endgame and then we rebooted Captain America and Iron Man and Thor, then you'd be complaining that they were just rebooted when they just had their movies. But now that we're expanding, we're just taking a deeper dive into the Marvel Universe, the expansive Marvel Universe, not just these couple characters like DC does, where they just reboot Batman and Superman over and over again. We've got all these other characters that were in this library that we're dipping into, but then people have a problem with that. So it's like, you got to pick one, people. It's just, I don't know. But another critique about the MCU is like, there's no stakes. Like they're like the way that that line of I just have to make sure we both lose came across in the trailer. Some people are thinking, oh, maybe Scott makes the ultimate sacrifice. You even see in a point, or maybe in this movie, where maybe Scott and Hope get stuck in the quantum realm, making that sacrifice, and it doesn't exactly turn out that way. So I can understand that maybe people are feeling like the stakes, there are no real stakes anymore. Like the characters aren't really in peril anymore. Like they're gonna go through some stuff, they're gonna need a band-aid or two, but they're not really gonna be in danger of losing their life, and thus it takes some of the oomph, the impact, the tension out of the scene. But I argue that any movie that you go to, like the hero of these franchise movies, is gonna make it out of it alive. You just know they are. So, I mean, any of these weekly procedural shows on TV, or these cop shows, or these whatever shows on TV, where these characters are in these situations, these hostage situations, or maybe like the baddie has a gun to their head. It's like, that's like, that person's like the second name, the second billing of the show. So nothing's gonna happen to them. You know that. So, I mean, I could see both sides of that, and you feel some of that in Antman and Wasp and Quantumania. MODOK is in this. I like some aspects of what they did with MODOK, kind of have it was like a throwback to the first Ant-Man. On the other hand, MODOK fans are probably going to be disappointed with how MODOK was portrayed and how MODOK progresses. I'll say progresses through the movie. No spoilers here. Progresses through the movie. There was some disappointment in that, and some line, as I said, there's the line, and here's Marvel stepping over it. There's a little bit of that with MODOK. It is what it is. Overall, it was a fairly good, if not little predictable type of movie. And the Deus Ex moment of triumph during the big fight at the end, you can kind of guess how it's going to happen if you kind of pay attention to the movie and a couple of things that go on as the rest of the movie is going on. You can kind of figure out like how the day is going to ultimately be saved. So there's a fair amount of like predictability at this point, but I mean that's with every movie, I guess. There is the gag of like them like taking off their helmets, which it's with these movies, movie stars, their face is their moneymaker. So we understand that. So we have to see their face. So you'd see in Spider-Man where his mask get ripped off. You saw in the first Avengers movie where Captain America's fighting the Chitauri on the street and they're ganging up on him, and one of them like yanks his like mask off so you can see his face, because it has to be seen for the final, climactic stuff in the movie. Robert Downey Jr. didn't have to exactly worry about that because we always saw his face within the Iron Man helmet because of the HUD, the heads-up display shots they would do. But even then, there would be some shots of him just popping open his face mask, stuff like that. So in this, there was a lot of like, as soon as they would like get, they'd shrink down, do some stuff, get big again, helmets would pop off, and it just became like this like. It was cool at first, and then it just got really, really old that it was constantly happening. But then again, it's just one of those compromises that you have to make when you're translating a comic book to live action. You got to see their faces. You got to see all this. So it's what you come to accept with these movies. But all in all, it was like a decent enough movie. Post-credit scenes were cool. There's a throwback to and reference to some comic books. Some Kang-related comic books from before. If you're a Fantastic Four fan like myself, the first instance that the Fantastic Four encountered a variant of Kang is there, which was cool to me because the Fantastic Four is my favorite comic book. And some other variants, and then there's another like a total end credit scene that references some stuff with Kang. So, but the thing is, he was Kang the Conqueror. This was like supposed to be like the scariest one, and he got taken out this early, or did he? I'm hoping he didn't. I'm hoping there's some shenanigans, some chicanery, and he comes back, because otherwise it's like he got taken out by Antman, and he's still in a couple movies coming forward. There's an Avengers Kang Dynasty movie that's coming forward, so we know Kang is going to be a big part of that. I assumed it was going to be Kang the Conqueror was going to be a big part of that. The fact that like. They could have had Ant-Man lose this, and it would have been like nobody would have tripped about it. It's Ant-Man against Kang. If he lost, it's Ant-Man against Kang. So there was an element of playing it safe, and I guess that's where also some of the MCU fatigue is coming from, because at this point they're just kind of playing it safe. They're not really taking any risks. It's a paint by numbers, play it safe. We'll still get like $100+ million opening, which this movie did. Still rake in a good amount of money. And we'll still keep the story going because people are invested at this point. I freely admit, I'm invested. I love the characters. I love characters that are coming down the line. Like, I'm cool with Captain America, Iron Man, Thor. They had the Day in the Sun. Bring me more. Bring me other, fresher characters that have not been seen. So I'm here for the development of those. So I guess they're counting on people like me that'll just show up, unlike other people who get admittedly tired of it, fatigued from it, and tap out. It is what it is. You got to kind of balance the decisions you're making of like how much are you losing by people tapping out versus how much do you still have to gain to sustain you and gain by people like myself that are still here and still in for it. I don't know. In the grand scheme of things, I guess we'll all see how it all plays out in the next few years, because arguably Phase 4 was kind of disappointment. With the shows and the movies that were brought forth with it. Will Phase 5 kind of right the ship and take things back, trending upward? Remains to be seen. We'll find out together. I think Antman and Wasp, Quantumania was a decent enough entry. I'd give it like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. But it was decent enough. Kang was great. Jonathan Majors is just a great actor. You can see by all the movies he's blown up in the last couple of years. So anchoring the future big badness of the MCU to him, I think is a smart move, and we'll just see how it all plays out. Will they stick the landing? Remains to be seen, but I'll be here for it. But those are some of my thoughts on it, scattered as they often are. What do you guys out there think? Let me know in the comments below. Follow me on social media. Talk to me there. Talk to me here. Until next time, let us geek.